Having local access to a research data center will benefit me in a number of ways. A lot of my research that I do makes use of the confidential, secure microdata that we have in these centers. And a big part of the process of doing the research is having myself and students access the data. So having local access means I can work with local students. I can employ students that I've taught myself, have trained myself, and I can readily monitor them and interact with them as they learn about the best practices of working with the data. Accurate data is very important because really if we're going to be measuring something, whether it's a big number or a small number, it really depends on the accuracy. And when we want to answer research questions, it's much better for us to have precise measurements that we can then learn from than to have very noisy measurements. So data accuracy is very important. One of the benefits of the Research Data Center is that we're able to use geographically finer measures with the confidential data than we would use if we were using public access data. For example, I can publicly access data from the Census of Canada that lets me know about residents of British Columbia, but I can't learn anything about residents of the city of Kelowna or residents of the Okanagan Valley in particular. But with the secure micro data that I can access through the Research Data Center, I can learn about more local issues and observations on local individuals. One of the main projects that I've been working in the Research Data Centers on is looking at charitable giving and how changes in the tax treatment of charitable donations affects the generosity of Canadians. And so this is using confidential tax data that's made available through the Research Data Centers. So using this confidential data, I can look at particular tax filers over time and see how changes in policy in one year can have longer lasting effects on their behaviors in the future. And so this kind of data is very, of course, very sensitive. Nobody wants people to be looking at their tax records. So what I get access to in the Research Data Center is a anonymized version of the data. So I can see a randomly assigned number for an individual that allows me to follow that individual over time. I know which province the individual lives in. I know the first three characters of the postal code for where that individual resides, but I don't know who the individual is. And so this confidential data is extremely powerful because, like I said, being able to track individuals over time allows us to find more precise answers to research questions than if I were to assume that everybody is the same. I think one of the largest strengths is not just to my own research program, I think that by having the Research Data Center opening here, it's helped us in attracting and recruiting high-quality researchers to join our faculty. So if you have these research data centers all across Canada and graduate students are working with them, if they were to join a campus that didn't have one, that would mean they had to either hop on the bus to Vancouver or change their research program slightly, pivot towards something that doesn't use the confidential data. But now that we have the data center locally, we have hired in economics. I know 2 of our last 4 recent hires used the Research Data Center for their research through their PhDs. And so coming here with the Research Data Center scheduled to open, that was a very, very appealing thing for them.